Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our CEI-Sphere Market Talk, the first market talk on mobility that we have. My name is Golbupur Abdullahian. I'm a senior consulting manager in IDC, and today with my colleague John Gole, who is a research director in IDC and the lead of the European IoT practice. We will walk you through some insights of the market analysis that we did within the CEI-Sphere project, just to provide you some snapshots of the market results, which hopefully then encourages you to move forward and read our report and market briefs. Before moving forward, I would suggest that when you will have some questions or comments, you can feel free to just write it in the chat. And then at the end, we will have a question and answer session, and we will get back to your question. So what's the scope of today's webinar? Basically, today we would like to provide you some snapshots of the market insights that we did with our colleagues in IDC and the Cloud-Edge-IoT computing continuum and some complementary technologies that John will talk about it later on, and also introduce you to our market report and market brief generated in the project. Okay. The agenda is that I will provide you an overview of the CEI-Sphere Coordinate Support Action. John will provide you market insights of CEI technologies in mobility sector and also on complementary and disruptive technologies for CEI, basically in mobility sector. And we will have a short slot for question and answer. Before starting to introduce you the CEI-Sphere Coordinate Support Action, perhaps it's useful to walk through the terminology that we use a lot in this project, but also in these market talks, which is the CEI continuum, so the Cloud-Edge-IoT continuum. We know that edge computing is an alternative to the centralized cloud service, which is emerging basically as a cornerstone for Europe's industrial digitalisation, as also it's underlined in Draghi report last year, published in September 2024. And basically data localization at the edge will be key for Europe's industrial digitalisation. These advancements, so advancement on decentralized intelligence, on the edge computing, are materializing through the integration of these technologies, the cloud, edge, and IoT, as well as also the introduction of AI that has been really accelerated in the last year. The convergence of these technologies, so the convergence of cloud, edge, and IoT creates basically a seamless network where data, which is collected by IoT devices, is processed, stored, and then analyzed along the path between the edge and the cloud, as we can see in this scheme of a computing continuum. Obviously, integrating AI into this continuum significantly increases the smart capabilities of the continuum and some functionalities such as predictive maintenance or personalization of the use cases. So to basically enable the shift to this new paradigm and to increase the innovation and collaboration in the CEI continuum within the landscape of research innovation in Europe, large-scale pilots have been funded recently. So large-scale pilots are new projects that are funded under the Horizon Europe program. They are basically the pilots on IoT platforms and edge intelligence that target breakthrough initiative. They basically want to accelerate the use of edge paradigm and technologies in real world in areas such as electromobility, such as software-defined vehicles, logistics, smart agriculture, smart urban environment, etc., you can call it. And the cross-domain approach of the initiative is fully supporting the joint roadmap of decarbonisation that I think that we all read in the Competitiveness Compass report that in February was published by the European Commission. So for this, CEI-Sphere is the CSA that is also funded recently, a few months ago, under the framework of the Horizon Europe, and supports the implementation of these larger scale pilots. The initiative will focus on the development of an open, interoperable, and competitive ecosystem for the Cloud-Edge-IoT larger-scale pilots. And in particular, the approach that we follow in CEI-Sphere is to create spheres, which are the clusters of the use cases in the larger-scale pilots. This basically will help us to understand and to identify the challenges of use cases and also the synergies among the larger scale pilots and use cases in a way that basically is driven by market needs. And that's why today we're going to talk about market. The project started last September. It's going to last for 30 months, and we have 9 partners in the consortium coordinated by BlueSpecs. As a important part of the project, we have the activity of market analysis, a tailored market analysis that is led by IDC. And here, basically, in the first milestone, we have developed an extensive preliminary market analysis on Cloud-Edge-IoT and complementary technology and ecosystem and many other things. So I would invite all of you to go to CEI-Sphere website and have a look on that. And also we have generated 5 market briefs that you can see on the right side. Again, you can have a look and see that if the insights could be helpful, hopefully for your use case, for your project, and for your business. The idea, as I said, of this webinar is to make you familiar with some overall concept and insights that have been generated within these briefs and this report. But again, I think if you go and read them, you can find much more interesting information and insights over there. This is the first market talk that we are organizing. We will organize 2 other market talks. The second one on 12th of June, focusing on energy sector, and the third one on 16th of July, focusing on manufacturing sector. So you can also book it in your agenda if you are interested also to attend those market talks. And in addition, within CEI-Sphere, we are also organizing other events as one of the main focus of large scale pilots, and also CEI-Sphere as the CSA that's supporting them is open source. Together with Eclipse Foundation, CEI-Sphere will organize an open source community day co-located with IoT Days in Madrid in September 2025. So it's 23rd and 24th of September. We will shortly, I think in the following weeks, share the agenda and more information on the website. But if you feel interested, just book it in your agenda and you will receive more information on that. With this, I would like to leave the floor to my colleague, John. And again, please feel free to write your questions and comments in the chat. John, the floor is yours.
Right, thank you, Golbu. So just getting the slides online here. So hopefully you can all see that. Right, so thank you, Golbu. Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here with you for a few minutes to talk about the research that we've been doing on mobility and CEI more broadly. So in this talk, as Golbu mentioned, we're trying to highlight some of the insights that we've delved into in the report. Hopefully, we'll share some interesting material here on the webinar with you, but also a key objective is to encourage you to dig deeper into the report itself and see and find some additional insights that are hopefully useful for you. We're looking forward to working with you as we continue with the CEI-Sphere project, and so we look forward to delving deeper in further research and providing additional insights that are hopefully useful. Okay, so to start with, as noted, this this initial study was based on existing research. And so when we're talking about mobility, we did find that we had some initial research that defines that term a little bit more broadly. So in this case, when we're talking about mobility, we are talking a lot about the broader transportation sector. So that includes the logistics side of things, as well as the sort of urban transport, public transport, people mobility, and electrification of transport. All of these kinds of themes bundled together. So to the extent that you want a narrow focus, we do have some material here that I think is of interest across these areas, but also we would look forward to feedback and delving deeper in targeted areas as we go forward. But so initially we've got some material covering this broader transportation sector. And what I wanted to do is just highlight some of the key things that we've delved into in the report. Initially we wanted to just set the scene and note the industry context within which this CEI development is taking place. So broadly speaking, we've highlighted a few crucial trends that are setting the scene for the mobility and transport sector. First one we wanted to highlight is digital transformation. So within the space, we do see companies are utilizing a range of technologies like IoT, edge, cloud, and AI, and also associated technologies to facilitate a digital transformation. And that enables companies to increase visibility in their assets and across supply chains, across sort of multimodal transport. So this digital transformation is a broad trend that it's not new. It's been underway for a while, and CEI it has a key role that it can play, or several key roles. So that's one broad issue for the industry. Another is sustainability. There's a push to increase efficiency across transportation networks, to electrify, to reduce carbon footprints, and make these solutions work more efficiently, more effectively. The final point to highlight is just the need for interoperability. So we have these very complex transportation systems. On the logistics side, you've got freight transport moving across different modes of transport, and also different companies handling that transport across borders and so forth. And so there's a need for interoperability across all of these modes and operators. And there's a similar issue on the urban mobility side as well, where there's increasing variety of transport options, from private transport to public transport to shared micro mobility and so forth. And so there's a role to play for technology to make these systems work better together, more fluidly, more effectively. So that's kind of very broad scene setting, but in order to essentially move forward on these different objectives, there are several challenges that need to be dealt with. So at a very broad level, just highlighting a few of these, connectivity is certainly a crucial point where the transport industry uniquely has just continuous movement of many of its assets, or most of its assets. And so even more than most other industries, this sector has a need for sometimes complex connectivity solutions to enable all of this to happen. Secondly, there is the challenge of legacy systems. You've got older assets that last for decades, and may not have the sensors and the compute and the capabilities to easily integrate into these digital solutions. And so that's a challenge for the industry to address. The third point is the skills gap. So as transport companies and organizations move forward to address these objectives, they do need additional skills in many areas. These are often across different technology layers in the Cloud-Edge-IoT continuum. And so it's a wide range of skills. This is not unique to the transport sector, but it certainly is an important issue for the transport and mobility sector, how to cope with that skills gap. And then the final item here is data security. This is certainly a well-known point that data security is a crucial challenge. And as we move toward digitalization and especially more and more automation of these assets, data security becomes critical, not just for privacy, but also for physical safety. So these are a number of the challenges that the industry is facing as it moves forward with its digitalization. Okay, so I wanted to note some of the key use cases and the impact, how CEI is making it possible to modernize and transform this industry. So on the logistics side, we hear a lot about the need for supply chain visibility, that's a real critical objective. Organizations need visibility in their freight and their assets throughout the transport network. And with that visibility, then they gain a lot of advantages in being enabled to dramatically increase efficiency and digitalize the rest of their operations as well. So if you know when your assets are arriving and in what condition, you can streamline the rest of your operations. That's critical for manufacturers and many other industries. So supply chain visibility is a critical issue. In the middle, we've got traffic management that is relevant for freight transport, but also thinking more in terms of urban mobility, improvements and automation of sort of real-time traffic management. That's a key and very broad area where CEI can play a lot of roles in moving this space forward and increasing efficiency. And the final point there on the right is the autonomous vehicles. It's also sort of it's autonomous vehicles. It's also electrification of vehicles, and also it relates to shared vehicles as well and shared assets. So we have this transformation underway, powered by CEI essentially, and it provides a wide range of benefits, but also it's kind of a cluster of many different smaller use cases, and so it's not a simple thing to execute on and to develop and deploy. It's about sort of modernizing the entire system, as are all of these. So this is just kind of a high-level view of how CEI plays many roles in enabling kind of the comprehensive transformation of this sector moving into the coming years. So that's sort of a broad picture of where the industry is going, and we often talk about like the long-term potential of these solutions, but where do we actually stand in this? We're still pretty early in the development of these solutions and technologies and the maturity of the market's usage of these technologies. In this case, I just thought I'd share a couple of numbers here. So in a survey from last August, we asked European companies, and in fact, this is specifically the transport companies, we asked them about their usage of IoT. Now, IoT is not quite CEI, but it's a useful proxy. So we asked them about that, and when asking overall, we found that over half of companies said that they're already using IoT, and another quarter of the respondents said that they're planning to do so over the next 2 years. And so what we see is that in the transport sector, as well as across pretty much all sectors, organizations are well aware of the benefits that IoT and CEI can and will bring to them. So we see a strong commitment to leveraging these technologies and solutions. However, that large gap between those using and those planning to do so, where it's about 79% total when you put those two together. So there's a large share that know they want to use CEI, but are not yet doing so. And that's a big gap. That gap is persistent over the years of research as we do these surveys. Companies struggle to deploy. CEI solutions are more challenging and complex than companies expect and would like. And so while companies understand the benefits, getting to those benefits is just much more difficult than they would like. So that's a key point about the maturity of CEI. The market has been educated, but what do they do? What steps to take is a very different issue. At the bottom of this chart, you can see we asked, this is a different survey. This is from about 2 years ago. So it's a little bit old, but I think still useful. This is from our Unlock CEI survey. And we found that companies were, so transport companies were using employee safety monitoring solutions. That was quite common. Also fleet tracking, smart buildings. So there's different use cases when we boil it down to specifics, but there's also quite significant differences between the freight transport and the passenger transport sectors. So although we've sort of bundled them together here as transport, they do have very different needs and different patterns of adoption. So that's worth keeping in mind. Okay. So the market understands the benefits, but it needs help getting there. What are the challenges that are inhibiting these use cases and solutions? Connectivity I've mentioned. I'm going to continue mentioning it actually. But for the moment, just keep that in mind that connectivity is a crucial enabler, and it's also a challenge at the moment. Integration complexity is a huge challenge. Companies always report that complexity challenge as a big barrier and often the biggest barrier. Security vulnerabilities. So that's another one. Complexity and security are often the top challenges along with cost. And security vulnerabilities are a key issue because as companies are deploying these new technologies, putting sensors out in the field and often increasingly automation of security becomes confident they can deal with that, then they may not be able to go forward. And then the return on investment is another issue where there's often so much complexity that the companies are difficult to put a cost or to determine a budget. And and then against that, some of the benefits may be less directly obvious, and so companies need a more clear ROI to be able to push ahead with solutions. So how do we enable these future CEI solutions? We've noted a few of the items here. Standardization is a key topic that we often we hear coming up, and in many areas across CEI. It's relevant at the solution level, but it's also relevant at individual component and technology layers. So it's a common issue throughout. And yeah, workforce training, collaboration. So yeah, collaboration across the industry is really critical because it requires, as we've mentioned, integration across all of these organizations throughout the web of transport, but it also involves the collaboration across all of the technology layers and solution suppliers as well. So that's another key issue that it's not easy to solve, but it's going to be an important part of moving forward and enabling the industry to adopt these technologies. Okay, so I think very often people would like to understand the size of the market. That's often a critical point. I do have a little bit of high-level data here from the report, and you can see that we have a forecast of the spending on CEI solutions in Europe from 2024 to 2028, and by these numbers, we've estimated that the total market size in Europe in 2024 was about 157 billion euros. So it's quite a large market. You can see some of the technology components there, or categories at least. Hardware is the biggest, but there's a lot of software and services. And we do forecast strong continuing growth of about 11% per year. So this is a large market and continuing to grow larger. When I show these numbers, I often get sort of some surprises because particularly salespeople at technology vendors get worried when they see this. They think that this is going to drive their targets to astronomical heights, and they're not sure how they can deliver that. The reason for that is that the CEI space is fragmented into so many different components. There's all the different technology layers, and then there's the individual solutions. You can see that endpoints are the largest part of the market by our calculation, and but those endpoints are often tailored to the specific needs of not just the use case, but the individual customer. So there's a lot of customization, and same thing with the application software. A lot of the cloud services that's shown here, those include software as a service. A lot of that is customized, although a lot of it is also horizontal layers of middleware, for example. But essentially, by a rough calculation, about 2/3 of this market looks like it's tailored to individual deployments, and about 1/3 is more sort of horizontal layers relevant across many use cases. And so that explains why the market, while it's very large overall, the individual segments that a company might be targeting might not be very big, and companies can struggle to find a sizable addressable market when they drill down to the specifics. So that's, I think, an important thing to note. When we look at individual technology components and individual solutions, the market is more modest than it might seem, and that creates economic challenges for the solution providers and technology vendors to match their cost with the revenue potential. Okay. Now, I wanted to touch on some of the technology layers in CEI solutions. And within the report, we have addressed many of these. So here I've listed 8 of these key technology layers, and each of these is addressed at some length in the report. The devices issue I just mentioned about how fragmented that is. It's a large total market, but the market for individual devices maybe is much smaller. Infrastructure, that's where we get into cloud and edge computing. And we see the move toward edge computing to enable a lot of the more advanced new solutions. But edge computing is still very immature. The adoption is still quite low, and it requires new things like orchestration, like edge orchestration platforms, and those are also quite nascent. So there's a lot of challenges there that we delve into in the report. And you can see we've provided insights across these different areas in the report. So I encourage you to go and have a look and share with us your feedback on where you need more insights as well. In addition to these components, we've also looked at more advanced, emerging, and disruptive technologies in the report. And so when we talk about that, we're talking about things like AI and Gen AI. And that's clearly, I mean, that's probably the hottest topic for the last couple of years in technology. And AI has been a key part of CEI solutions for many years. So that's a critical area that is it's developing rapidly, but it's also some of it's kind of quite well entrenched. Gen AI is, I was initially skeptical of how that might play a role in CEI solutions, but we're seeing that it really is helping companies to cut through the complexity and to shorten development times and deployment times. So it's really helping to solve one of the biggest barriers holding back CEI. So that's an important area that we delve into in the report. There's also more advanced connectivity like 5G advanced and 6G, and also satellite connectivity. And then you see the other range of topics that are addressed in the report. So I encourage you to go and have a look. For the moment, we're running short on time, so I just wanted to highlight a few points about the connectivity space. So because this is so critical for the transport sector, I thought I would share a few additional thoughts on this space. First of all, one of the key issues is that the network landscape is evolving very rapidly. So we had LTE networks widely deployed, and that seemed simple and clear. But then IoT and CEI have made the space more confusing with new networks like narrowband IoT, LTE-M, and 5G. And so this situation's evolving, but those networks have had limited coverage and interconnection across countries. So that's been a big barrier. There is progress happening though. So those narrowband networks are getting greater deployment. Also 5G coverage is improving. So the situation is improving. The modules are becoming more widely available and cheaper. Additionally, advanced capabilities are coming online. So that's like the 5G ultra low latency, for example. That has not yet become significantly available in Europe, but the 5G core networks that enable that are finally coming online basically now in many countries. And so we expect to see those advanced capabilities coming over the next few years. Private networks are a key topic for the private cellular networks for things like airports and ports. That's a crucial enabler, and that's now becoming fairly common, although it's still early in its development. And satellite connectivity, finally, is a key area where there's a lot of excitement and optimism now about the possibilities of satellite connectivity providing comprehensive coverage even in rural and remote areas for transport companies. And so that's becoming more and more possible now, and development in that space is extremely rapid. So so there's a lot of potential in the next few years in that space, and it could be really crucial for the transport sector. So there's a lot happening there. You can read more in the report, but also I would note that there's still a long way to go in this development. This is a work in progress, and also we do keep moving the goalposts, right? As we make certain CEI solutions feasible and sort of bulletproof, we then want to increase functionality and add more automation and more advanced capabilities. So this development in this space is going to continue for many years as we continue moving the goalposts and raising our expectations. So with that, I'll conclude. I hope that has been useful, and I'm not sure if there's questions or if we have time for questions.
Thank you very much, John. Thanks. Again, I encourage everyone, if they have questions, to write it in the chat, or even you can raise your hand and we can unmute you and you can share your question. But maybe one question that I have, and because you were talking about the AI, and it's such a big trend, especially in the last year, last 2 years. So my question is about, how do you think that with the rapid growth of AI in different fields that we see, how it's going to impact the implementation of CI technologies in mobility sector? So if we talk about, I don't know, optimizing fleet management or traffic systems, or how do you think it's going to impact the market?
Yeah, so there is a desire to push AI models out to the edge to enable more optimization and automation of various systems. That's not just transport, but it includes transport, and that does present a lot of challenges. I mean, ultimately, it will enable these systems to be far more efficient and to work fluidly and communicate with each other very effectively. But getting there is very, very challenging. The edge computing side of it is a crucial issue. How to manage the edge compute on these moving assets so that you are able to collect the right data on these sort of resource-constrained devices, and then optimize those systems with local AI models. How do you manage those models distributed across the network, and get those benefits? It's something that is arguably not so complicated. At least some of these objectives are not so complicated now when you want to do them on a small scale, but when you want to scale them up, it becomes far more complicated, and we need progress across the AI and but also on edge compute and orchestration and so forth. And we need tools that can bring all of that to those end customers so that they can efficiently implement these solutions.
Thanks, John. I see that we have also a question from Yanni. He's asking, is satellite connectivity going to be based on 4G LTM, or are there trials with 5G RedCap technology?
Yeah, so okay, great question. I'm not sure about RedCap yet. I'll dig back into that. But we do hear, so there's definitely a lot happening on the wideband side of things, right, with Starlink and targeting the broadband side of the market. But then there's also narrowband. So the one that I've heard quite frequently is narrowband IoT on satellites. Not LTE-M, but NB-IoT. So just off the top of my head, that's what I'm aware of. And I definitely see efforts on the NB-IoT side, but I'm not aware of LTE-M efforts off the top of my head. When you talk about RedCap also, so I do know that the 3GPP standardization process, you know, they continue with a new release every roughly 18 months or so. And so they've now completed their 3 releases that are called 5G, and the next 3 releases are considered 5G advanced, and then comes 6G. And they are progressing with these, and satellite standards are a key component of those efforts. RedCap, I think it's a natural one, but off the top of my head, I'm not sure if that is in the cards. I think it's a likely point, and yeah, it's a reasonable question.
Okay, let's get the final question. We are just running out of time. It's also related to the previous question. It asks, how the satellite connectivity you think will play a role for CEI with all the various types of satellite connectivity options, where lots of them are proprietary technologies other than 3GPP standards, as you're saying, and NB-IoT and RedCap.
Right. Yeah, so I think that what I see on the market is that this is a hot field, and I mean, Starlink in particular has really kind of driven home what is possible and also kind of commercial potential. And it's kind of scared a lot of the older established satellite providers. So there's a lot of movement happening in reaction to this general transformation in the satellite space. And a lot of the legacy providers are developing new solutions to enable IoT connectivity and lower bandwidth connectivity in competition to these new providers. So there's a lot happening, and there are several service providers that are using geostationary and also medium orbit constellations to provide IoT connectivity now. So some of that is certainly not kind of 3GPP standardized, but there's a lot of effort to make things possible now. And in parallel to that, the 3GPP is prioritizing this. This is an important part of their work moving forward. And they have been incorporating non-terrestrial networks into those standards. And they have a roadmap through these further releases to add further standardization and capabilities. So I think that a lot of this will be incorporated into 3GPP over the next few years. And it's likely that most of that will be 3GPP eventually. But in the meantime, there's an opportunity for companies to use what they've got to deliver services even sooner.
Great. Thank you very much, John. We just run out of time, so unfortunately we should finish with these questions. But again, we encourage you to reach out to us and also to check the website and check the report and market briefs and register for the next webinars if you're interested for energy and manufacturing. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a nice day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.